Alright, this is an SDC tutorial. EPSXE is allowed for this game. It's discouraged, but it's allowed because IGT. So first thing notice, I obviously use O-Dash. I don't claw. Not a fan of claw. Even though it's a lot more friendly in 4, 5, and 6, I still don't like it. So I do like this, and from this, I pretty much figured out that triangle, like I have it mapped to triangle because of weapon select mapped to triangle because of X collection only having GameCube X collection having one less button. But basically the goal of my SDC layout is to have triangle be basically useless, which a weapon swap is useless, so it counts. But whenever I SDC, this is weird. In here, once I get later in the game, or later in X5, my, you'll see, like, yeah, the weapon go crazy. It's because the way I SDC. So typically I SDC like this. This is just how I SDC. It's kind of hard to, like, explain because I don't really know what I'm doing either. Like, I kind of just, like, roll back and forth really fast, but I'm almost just straight up mashing it to an extent. Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but this is, like, my preferred method. There's also, I know some people have told me that this is awkward, so they don't do it. I don't know of many people that do it the way I do it, though, in the first place. The most common method with O, I'm going to go over different setup layouts, too, but I'm going to start with O, since it's what I use. The most common way to SDC with O-Dash is the double thumb. I refer to this as single thumb just because this is called double thumb all the time. So with double thumb, the idea is kind of like a double mash. It's, if you know how to double mash a button, this is literally that, but like 10 times easier because both your thumbs have individual buttons. So if you can double thumb a button, you can double thumb SDC. The idea is like, for me at least, I don't know if everyone does it this way, but this, like, I guess you could get kind of a rhythm with it. Impressing, but what I do is I use, if you see the way I'm holding the controller, I use my right hand to move the controller into my left thumb, and I use my fingers, the bottom of my fingers here, as just leverage. So I don't even do anything with my hand. Majority of the time, like when double mashing, it's a little different. I try to actually press with my thumb, but when SDCing, I make sure that I don't. I'm not even moving my left hand at all. All the work is being done by my right wrist, throwing the controller into square, and then rhythmically pressing O. And you can kind of get a feel for it, but to an extent. But I feel like once you get decent at it, doing it faster is easier. Like, I'm kind of struggling to do it slow this way. I have a pretty hard time doing a slow SDC at this point. It really fucks me over when it comes to fighting General in X4. This is another really common method I see some people do, this piano keys. I'm not very great at it, but this is about as fast as I can go with it. But this is a method. That one's not too hard if you don't care super much about speed or whatever, but I mean, each his own. So yeah, for this one, this is probably the most consistent, fastest way to SDC, but you give up the D-pad, which is why I prefer single. There are times I used to switch to this in, like, specific cases, but in general, this is how I SDC. And I'm just mashing all across here. Don't worry about triangle, just mash triangle if you're doing this. I think that's about, yeah, those are the 3 main O-Dash methods. Oh shit, that's not what I meant to do. X5 sucks. I'll do R1 now, and I will do L. There's a few. There's only a few more really big methods, I'd say. I'll show off the Satoryu one just for fun too. That's the Satoryu method is basically where I got the idea from mine. He put dash here and slash here, and then would put jump on R1, which is really weird. I'll show off that real quick. Yeah. So that one is just... It's a little more strenuous on my wrist, personally, but... whatever works for you. I'll talk a little bit about SSDC after this, but if you can't SDC in the first place, don't worry about SSDC even existing. Okay, so let's correct a little bit. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so there's two known methods that I really know of for this. So this is the legendary chicken wing. This is what I did when I started speedrunning, because I used R dash or R1 dash, and basically it's what it looks like. It's called chicken wing because you reach over, and this is like a little chicken wing, your left hand. So you just kind of go ham, and this is like a really bad method. I would never recommend this, but like if it works, it works, I guess. And remember, Cerno Beats and I used this for X6 because he was really bad. I would almost never recommend that one, but if you absolutely have to, go for it. Or, oh, I'm dumb. I didn't show off the actual good way. So this is the way that I know Shadow Zero and Louise SDC. I don't know if they do it the same way, but this is how I do it. The kind of like just single hand R1 SDC. So I'm pretty decent at this one, but I don't ever use this. So this is pretty hard to explain, but like I'm putting R1 as low on my finger as possible, and I'm just shaking my hand basically. Like, it's really weird. That one is pretty easy for me. I don't know how I didn't figure out how to do that when I started running the game. If I would have figured out how to do that when I started running these games, I'd still be using R1 to this day probably, which is probably debatably a good thing, or would have been a good thing. Now my wrists hurt because of O-dash. Anyway, let's get to this. I'm not really good at this one, but I know a decent amount of people do this. The goal of this one is just trying to get a good rhythm, kind of. The only way I can seem to figure this out is just by kind of mashing it. Or just dying. That works too. This is what I always used to do, was just trying to like find a good SSDC rhythm with this, because that's one thing that this one's like kind of decent for. Oh yeah, touch on SSDC real quick. The most popular way to SSDC by far is the double tap dash, and that sounds kind of crazy, but it's really smart if you think about it. So for double tap dash, you have to press forward 2 times to trigger dash, right? So 1, 2, and it would cancel the second. So I'm pretty bad at this, but ideally if you mash these at the exact same speeds, you should have a pretty good SSDC. That could also work in most cases. If you like, you can SSDC instead of SDC a lot of bosses. There's a few that you'd have a problem with, but overall it's not a horrible idea if you can't SDC super well. SDC, God. Okay, while I'm here, so this is most notably known as Cyber Demons, or Cyber Demon 531, Andrea Cyber. Her SSDC method, I'm really bad at this. This is the only way I could get this to work. But she always told me that this was designed for SDC. But, like, this isn't too bad. Like, for me being pretty bad at a lot of other methods, this one isn't too bad. The only problem is then you have to, you know, use L1 to slash. It's pretty weird to me, but I know a decent amount of people who use this layout aside from just Cyber. What's the other big one? I think I pretty much covered them all. Oh, well, I can think of a fun one. L1? Yeah. L1 dash is pretty hard to SDC with. I mean, it never really... R1 dash, like, honestly, something that I'm talking to someone in chat. Something that I really had to do, and I know a lot of people do, it's pretty common for runners of X4, 5, and 6 to relearn how to play these games with different controls that are more adaptable for SDC. I'm not saying that you have to change your controls, but if you find a method of SDC with a certain control layout that you think is pretty good, I'd recommend trying to see if you could play the entire game with that controls layout. Find a comfortable way to do so. It's not the end of the world, but like I'd pretty much recommend R1 over L1 in all the PlayStation X just because it's just seems to be better for SDC. I don't really know too many people that have a really good SDC with L1. Not to say that you can't have one, but for me, like, I can use L1 or R1 as dash or O. Like, I'm pretty much used to them all at this point. Or L2 and R2, I mean, are like literally the same. There's barely any difference. But yeah, like, I think adaptability is a big part of these games with controls. So don't be afraid to try out a different control method. And if you find that you have a good SCC with, say, O-Dash or something, then, yeah. SCC tutorial, yeah. People are bugging me for this a few months back. And, Luigi Man in chat was talking about it, so I thought now would be a good time since I failed Enigma. Because I was too late on the Enigma manip. But yeah. Also, claws for nerds. Lol. So show off O-Dash ones real quick. There's... Wait. Okay. Oh, yeah. Real quick. I'll show how I... this is how I SSDC. I literally have no idea what I'm doing with my thumb. I'm just, like, pivoting it back, and there's... When you speedrun for 6 years, you learn how to do things and then don't remember how you learn them or even what you're doing. And this is certainly one of those. I have no idea what I'm doing when I SSDC here, really. But it works pretty damn well for me. So this is how I SSDC. I'd end the recording here.